You may have noticed that I've done a lot of videos covering Labdanum Absolute in the past, and today is going to be another one of those videos. So Labdanum Absolute, that sticky resinous substance that's used in amber quartz. It's one of my favourite raw materials, which is why I've covered it so much, and I love it so much that I even bought a whole kilogram of it at one point, which I'm selling on my web store. So any of you guys still interested, by the way, quick plug, you can still pick that up. But yeah, I did a video which is actually when I was selecting which Labdanum Absolute to buy, and I went and compared 6 different Labdanum Absolutes, and that's how I ended up with this one that I have now, which I really like. Anyway, someone recently just sent me a message on Instagram saying, hey, I watched that video on Labdanum Absolute, and in fact I am a producer of Labdanum Absolute myself in Portugal, and we make this really artisanal kind of handmade Labdanum Absolute. And she asked me, would it be alright if I sent you a sample to evaluate and see how it compares to the other Labdanum? So I said, of course, that sounds really cool, thank you very much. And lo and behold, I received in the post this week a sample of Labdanum Absolute, which has been handcrafted in Portugal. So in this video, I'm going to, basically, I'm just going to dilute that down and I'm going to evaluate it and let you guys know what it smells like. And I'm also going to go over a little bit of the process of how Labdanum Absolute is actually made. And she kindly also sent me some photos and videos of the production process. Right, so before we go and do the dilution and the evaluation, I want to do a quick recap on what Labdanum is and how it's made. And I'm going to show you the videos that I got sent of the flowers and the resin from this Labdanum getting made. So, here's the book, by the way, Perfume and Flavor Materials of Natural Origin, in case you're interested in picking this up. I'll put a link in the description below. This book's really good for basically almost all natural products in perfumery, things like essential oils and absolutes. This will tell you things about how they're made and also sometimes how they're used. So, Labdanum. Labdanum is a resinous exudation from the Cistus landiferus, a small wild-growing shrub probably originating in the mountainous coastal regions of the eastern Mediterranean countries and the Middle East. The shrub is now found in all the countries which surround the Mediterranean Sea, and then it goes on to list all the different types of Labdanum products, and there are a lot of different ones. So there's this Cistus landiferus plant, which I've kindly got some photos of as well to show you guys of these flowers from Portugal. And essentially what happens is they create this gum essentially, and apparently when it's a hot day in particular, this will start to come out. But you can also, you can get the gum just by boiling the plants in hot water. So there's a lot of different ways that this Labdanum can be processed, and let's just make a quick distinction here. The flower, the plant itself, is Cistus or Cistus landiferus. Labdanum itself, that term Labdanum, that refers to this sticky brown gum that exudes from the plant. So usually when you make a Labdanum Absolute, what you'd first go and do is make a Labdanum concrete, or concrète in French. And the way you do this is you take the Labdanum gum, or you just take the leaves and twigs which contain the gum, and you first do a hydrocarbon extraction. So I'm not exactly sure what solvent they use, but it might be something like hexane. And then once you've gone and done that, you've got your concrète, and then you go in again with alcohol, and then you do an alcohol extraction. So it's that alcohol soluble fraction, which is that final one that you can then go and use in your perfumes. This Labdanum Absolute is actually a little bit different from the other Labdanum Absolutes which I looked at before, and that is because of the process by which it was made. So this Labdanum Absolute, by the process which I was sent by Francisco, she said it's not using hexane, so not using a hydrocarbon solvent. Instead, she collects the labdanum straight from the cistus plants, and then she leaves it to macerate for 8 weeks in grain alcohol. After that, she lets the alcohol evaporate at room temperature. So this, according to the book, is actually a Labdanum Resin Absolute instead of a regular Labdanum Absolute. And that is when you take the labdanum resin and you go and extract that straight away with alcohol, as opposed to having this solvent extraction, or the hydrocarbon solvent extraction step in between. Anyway, so that is what this Labdanum Absolute is. Now let's go and dilute it and see what it smells like. Right, so now I'm filming this from the next day. Unfortunately, the dilution took a little bit longer to make than expected, and the reason for that is some of the Labdanum Absolute actually leaked out of the bottle in the flight from Portugal. And because there was only 1 milliliter in the first place, that meant it was quite difficult to actually recover an amount to make the dilution for. So I had to kind of use that clamp stand to hold it upside down and wait a long time for it to drop out, and I had to kind of scrape the bits out that I could. But in the end, I managed to recover some. I managed to get 0.041 grams, which is fine because that was enough to make this dilution. And what I did was I made a 10% dilution, which I can go and compare with the 10% dilution of the Ultra International Labdanum Absolute, which was the one which I sourced a while back. So to begin the comparison, the first thing I want to note about this Labdanum Absolute is if you actually hold it up to the light, you can notice that it's not completely clear. It's actually a bit of a cloudy solution. And also there are some little bits sticking to the sides of the bottle. So that's not really a problem. But what it does mean is that if you're using this, you would probably need to filter your perfume. I mean, normally you would filter a perfume anyway, but in this case, you're definitely going to want to filter it to get out any bits of residue from the natural labdanum plant. Anyway, let's go and make these evaluations. So I'm going to take a scent strip for each, and I'm going to label them. Now, before going on to smell the Labdanum Absolutes, let's just quickly look at the difference in colour. So the Rocky Rosy Labdanum Absolute, that's the one I just got. If you look at this on the scent strip, you can see that it's significantly darker than the Ultra International one. Now, again, this isn't a problem or anything, but it's simply it's something to note, because it does mean if you go and use this Labdanum Absolute in your perfume will be darker. Conversely, if you go and use this Labdanum Absolute, the Ultra International, your perfume will be lighter. And it depends kind of, I guess, what look you're going for on your perfume. If you want a darker perfume, then this might be better. And if you want a lighter perfume, the Ultra International might be better. And one of the reasons that can be important is because if you want to avoid, say, staining, for example, on white clothes, it can be better to have a lighter color perfume. But that said, I think there's nothing wrong with dark perfumes. Especially in terms of artisanal and niche perfumery. Sometimes it can give you the sense of luxury having a darker perfume. Anyway, let's go on to smell them. So I'm going to start with this, with the Rocky Rosy Labdanum Absolute, because that one I have never smelled before. So I got a whiff of it from, obviously, when I was making the dilutions and the bottles, but I haven't actually done the evaluation yet, so this is the first time I'm smelling it. Right, so what do I think of it? What do I think of the difference between the two? So I do think that this Labdanum Absolute definitely has quite a unique smell. Something that I noticed when opening the packet, but also when I smell it on the scent strip, is I think this does smell different from a lot of other Labdanum Absolutes that I've smelled. And the way I would kind of pinpoint that is I would say this has a smell that reminds me a lot more of something like sultanas or dried fruit. It's definitely quite a unique smell. And it has got kind of this unique smell. So actually, when I went and smelled, the leaves that I got in that packet, they had this kind of it's a slightly fresher smell than the usual kind of amber smell. It's a bit close to a foliage, and I can detect a hint of that here as well. So it's kind of this. It's very interesting because it's like, while it's clearly a labdanum smell, and it has got the standard kind of, it has got that kind of standard amber base to it. It's also got this kind of very slight fresh foliage facet, and also what I think is kind of a dried fruit facet to it. On the other hand, when I go to smell the Ultra International one, I can note that it's definitely stronger, and also this one has a lot more of a sweet honey-like aspect, which is part of the reason I chose it in the first place. So the Ultra International one is, I definitely think this one is probably still the winner if you're looking for a kind of sweet amber accord and you want to go in that direction, make a really kind of a nice, like, yummy gourmand kind of thing. But that said, I do think that this Rocky Rosy Labdanum Absolute is very interesting, and it's definitely got its own unique character. It's more subtle, but it's definitely got almost like I wouldn't say earthy in the sense of patchouli, but it feels like a very much more of a down to earth kind of I think if you were making an earthy perfume or something that you wanted to have that kind of you didn't want to have something that was sweet and candy like, but you were going for more something that was almost the opposite, something that was not sweet, something that's just very kind of rustic and kind of pure like earthy materials, and you want to give that kind of effect, then I actually think this could be quite interesting in a composition like that. So yeah, that's my take on it. Okay, so I've just gone and texted Francisco with my feedback about the Labdanum Absolute. And I asked her where you guys could go and buy it if you're interested in getting some off her Etsy. I will put a link to her Etsy store in the description down below. And she actually said one of the reasons she sent me this was for some feedback, so she could actually go and improve the product further before releasing it. So I didn't realize this before, but this is actually an experimental product, and she's still working to improve it. So the advice that I gave her, since it's not released yet, is I said, okay, cool. Firstly, I think one thing that would be cool is if you could maybe filter it before you've evaporated the alcohol, in the hope that it will reduce the cloudiness and the particulates in the final product, or when you go and dilute it yourself and use it in your perfumes. I also said that since what I got leaked in the post, and this may have just been a one-off occurrence, but I noticed it was in one of those regular essential oil bottles, and usually these are quite prone to things like leaking. I recommended that she get some jars like this, the ones that I use for my Labdanum Absolute. I actually sent her a link to these jars in the hope that if she can use something like this in the future, they have a special cap which creates a tight seal, and I'm hoping that if she uses something like this, then anyone who goes and buys these won't experience the same leaking problem that I did. So that said, I'm really, really grateful for Francisco for sending me this Labdanum Absolute. It's really nice of her. So Francisco, thank you very much. And for anyone interested in trying out this Labdanum Absolute themselves, when she's finished the product and finally put it on the store, I will link her Etsy store and her Instagram in the description of this YouTube video. And if you're interested in anything more about the process of how that Labdanum Absolute is actually made, and how she makes it differently to normal Labdanum Absolutes, I'm sure she would be happy if you sent her a message on Instagram. She's been sending me messages when I've asked, okay, like, how do you make it? And she's more than happy to give me all the information that I asked for. So she seems super nice, and if you guys are interested, I'd recommend you go and send her a message on Instagram yourself. So yeah, Really cool surprise to get this Labdanum Absolute. Thank you very much, Francisco. And that is my review and comparison to the Labdanum Absolute, which I'm still selling on my web store, guys. So if you're interested in buying this Labdanum Absolute from Ultra International, which is a big multinational fragrance company producing raw materials, then you can still find that on my website. Again, there's a link in the description for that. So hopefully some of you guys found this video valuable. Hopefully a couple of you may even want to go and try this Portuguese Labdanum Absolute for yourself. And otherwise, maybe some of you have just been interested in the process or the videos of the rock rose, the cistus flowers, and how it's produced, because I think that's really, really interesting. So thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoy the rest of your week, and I'll see you next time with a new video.